my name is Claire Broad. I'm a medium and an author. Thank you for joining me here on my Facebook page for this Facebook Live. This video is to answer your questions all about the afterlife, spirit communication, and I can see all the lovely names popping up here now. Hi Linda, hi Catherine. So whilst you're all joining me, I shall just babble on a little bit and give you a bit of background. So as I was just saying, What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, my new book that came out a couple of weeks ago now, has been voted this month as Soul and Spirit's best spiritual read. So that's a bit of an honour, isn't it? Especially for, if you like, my first full book. So off the back of that, loving the thumbs up and the hearts, everyone. Click your buttons for me, please. I can see it's all working then. Off the back of that, your lovely questions have given me a chance now to create videos for you and to answer anything that you wanted to know. So I've got a real range of questions here and quite a few to get through tonight. So I'm going to go through a big page of questions and I'm going to answer them as truthfully as I can. Now, you guys know that I don't pretend to know everything. I'm not a guru. I don't put myself out there as such. I've had personal experiences with the spirit world and with exploring the potential of mind. Even if you're still doubting and you're not quite sure whether you believe in an afterlife yet, you know, there is definitely proof out there for psychic ability and lots of science around that now. So mind and consciousness, we don't understand it. So if at any time I'm answering questions tonight and you're thinking, not too sure about this, then I want you to ask questions below and I will come back to you after this session here, if not tonight, and let you know that there is the science and here's where to go and find it. But that's not what this is about today. I'm not about trying to prove to you anything. I'm just about trying to share my knowledge, the wisdom that I've gained from the spirit world, and share the personal experiences that I've had. So I'm going to jump straight in because I want to answer these questions and as many as I can and not keep you here all evening. I appreciate the fact that you're even here, okay? So the first question that I got was one on fear, which I think is really interesting when it comes to spirit communication because lots of us have fear. Some of us fear opening a doorway between ourselves and the spirit world. Others of us fear whether mediumship, spirit communication, being aware of your own loved ones conflicts with religious ideals. And other times we fear just falling foul to fraudulence or finding a practitioner that isn't too great. I mean, we've all had an experience of a duff reading. If we've ever, I'm sure the community out there will know, everyone who's had a reading and seeking and trying to explore the area of mediumship at some point will have come up against having a duff reading. I'm seeing some hearts going up there. So I'm guessing that we've got some agreement. I see, hear and feel spirits and energy, but I choose to block them rather than acknowledge them. I want to know if I should develop my skills or leave it be. I get afraid sometimes when I'm touched or see and feel spirit and I ask them to stop. Yet I continue to be fascinated by the paranormal / supernatural. I would also like to know about any spirits who are watching over me or if there are any spirit attachments. Okay, so now this is interesting because this question is by somebody who's anonymous. So to the point there at the end of this question, I'd like to know about any spirits who are watching over me and if there are any attachments. Then I think that is very difficult to ask given that I don't know who you are, so I can't even tune in. But I would say that I also wouldn't generally go down that road. So I'm going to address that part of the question first. So I believe that spirit loved ones are watching over us all. So yes, it doesn't matter if I don't even have to tune in to you to tell you that. Spirit loved ones watch over us all. Spirit guides, spirit teachers. And, you know, I've spoken in length about the fact that I met a spirit guide, spirit teacher that I was very sceptical about in my own life. And it took years for it to prove itself to me. But now that I know that it's there, I can say if I've got it, everybody's got it, because I am not special. Just for whatever reason, I was being asked to write for the spirit world and they let themselves know they were with me for that reason. But we all have that guidance and spiritual help. Think of it this way. You know how in this life we have teachers, we have nurses, we have people who are empathic, people who just want to help others in this world. And then if we move into a different state of being when we die, we wouldn't change our attitude or the way that we are. If anything, we'd get more empathic, more loving as we start to understand the bigger picture around us and the fact that, you know, love never dies. So actually in the spirit world, they're much more inclined to reach out and help us, even more so than in this world. So if it exists in this world, then it exists in the next. I really do believe as above, so below. So all of you out there, if any of you are ever wondering, do I have my own spirit guide? Do I have my own help? Yes, you do. Now, here's the thing I want to address on that as well. Some people say to me sometimes, well, what about the people suffering in this world? Where's their guides? Where's their spirit teachers? Well, it's, you know, these difficult questions are always hard to give a satisfactory answer to. And I've got to be honest, I'm always questioning myself because I get frustrated too with the answers. It just seems too simplistic. But we've got to get past the idea of just physical reality. I'm talking about the reality of consciousness, dimensions of awareness that permeate through everything. So guides and spirit teachers aren't in physical form. They're in energetic form. They're consciousness, intelligence. They bring energy and support to support us mentally and spiritually. And we have to do the physical world. They can't do that for us. They're not in physicality. So, I mean, it's asking a big ask to ask somebody who's not in a physical form like us to help us physically. But they are there. When the chips are down, when things get really, really bad, they're there. I have no doubt about it. But obviously, I can't answer some of these really difficult questions about suffering. I've never seen a spiritual teacher really answer it really well. Probably Buddha got to the closest of answering how to manage suffering, and I don't put myself anywhere near him. So that's the answer to that bit of this huge question. Okay, so I see, hear and feel spirits and energy, but I choose to block it rather than acknowledge them because of the fear of opening the doorway between the two worlds. Now, I'm talking about consciousness and I'm talking about awareness. Once you start to see that you are not just a physical being, but you are a spiritual being, and that your mental wellness is your power, and actually that is your mental state, and the way that you think is the most important aspect of you. It's the eternal part of you, the emotion, the stuff that isn't physical. It's that can move on into the next world. So actually our greatest treasure, I really do believe, is our awareness. That even goes beyond mind. So the way that I try to describe this is, you know, if you walk into a room where two people have been arguing, and you walk into the atmosphere, and your body and your awareness registers that atmosphere there. If you told a scientist there it is, measure it, they couldn't, because you can't put your finger on it. But we all know what it's like to feel that aspect of reality that isn't physical and to receive information, awareness from it. It's that part of us, that dimension of life that I'm talking about here. So when you understand that your mental state of being controls that, and that you are empowered, you are just as equal to any spirit being out there, and you own your own power, you don't have anything to be frightened of, because we're equal. We're all energy, come from the same stuff. So it's like this life where we have bullies, and we allow the bullies to affect us. And actually really what it is our thinking and our minds that they're getting to. You know, when you hear people say, don't let people rent space in your head, it's exactly the same with the spirit world. You know, mediums tend to be very strong-willed people who are not going to let riff-raff come anywhere near them. And also who are loving and hopefully confident in themselves, so that they set the boundaries, what they will accept, what they won't accept. And it's interesting actually, because in What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, I share some science from Professor Chris Rowe, who's at the University of Northampton. And he talks about the fact that the studies he did with mediums, where you could actually think that they were mentally insane because they were hearing voices, if you like, or receiving communications from otherworldly sources, they actually come out as more psychologically sound than his own psychology students. Now that's a result, isn't it? So here's what I'm saying, that I believe that mediums, when they get proficient, no longer fear the spirit world because they've become mentally well, hopefully balanced, and own their own power. That's what you need to do. Once you can achieve that, then working with the spirit world no longer becomes anything to fear. I have to say that in 23 years, I could probably count on 4 fingers the time that I felt a little bit uneasy with what's going on around me, purely because of the ignorance that I had in not knowing how to handle the situation. In 23 years, I'm working every day with spirit, and I can tell you this, that some of the communications, well, in the majority of the communications, are so overwhelmingly loving. I can't actually hold or contain the amount of love that's coming through my awareness when spirit come close. So fear to me now is something that I realise, fear of the thing itself, is worse than the actual doing it. It's the fear that makes it worse than the actual taking part. Am I saying this well enough? I don't know if I am. But anyway, I'm saying it the best I can on the evening. So there you are. So don't be frightened. You can explore this yourself, because really we're dealing with mind. You wouldn't be frightened of somebody that you came to talk to if you came to, for instance, come into this video or go into a workshop to learn from someone else. That to me is how I treat the spirit world, just people that I go to learn from and to grow from. Now, what's Anne-Marie saying here? We moved into a house recently where the owner died of a heart attack. He was a gentle person when he lived. Oh, now I can't see it all. Let's see if I can push that. I'm not sure I can. Oh, yeah. One evening, one of the dogs started growling, and since then I know that another one of my dogs saw something. Can spirits be negative or harm you? I don't feel anything negative and no fear. Well, hopefully I'm answering you. Anne-Marie, I feel that, okay, it's a difficult one. Can spirits, beings be negative in their state of mind? Yes, I think they can. Because, let's face it, we're prone to negativity ourselves, aren't we? So, and we are spirit beings, just in a physical form. I don't believe that most spirits are evil. I just don't go for it. I haven't experienced it. I haven't experienced being harmed. The harm for me comes on the mental level for people. I can understand that if somebody became mentally anxious or depressed or concerned about spirit communication in a house such as this where you're getting activity, I can understand the psychological danger there in well-being. But harm to the physical body, no. I mean, they can't, what they're going to do to you at tops, really, honestly, I don't, I've never experienced it. I can only talk from my own experience. They're not in physical form. How are they going to physically harm you? We're talking about dealing with mind and intention here. And so they might well try and influence our energy bodies, send bad feeling or, negative energies to us in their own mindset and affect our energy fields, perhaps. But again, like I said, if you're owning your own power and you are in control of that, then I don't see how that can work. It tends to be just like in this world, how some people have power over other people and they influence them or control them. It's that kind of feeling. So I would say if you don't feel mentally sound and strong enough to attempt mediumship, don't. Wait until you can come to it with less fear. Do it with, if you want to develop, do it with somebody who's already experienced, who you can feel safe with. But like I said, I want to reiterate, in 23 years, I have never experienced anything like that. It's not the norm. And can I just say, with regards to the term obsession or possession, actually, those who have studied this find it's only like as small as 1% of all cases are because somebody has developed an obsession with spirit. And it goes both ways. It's like a two-way relationship that forms there. 1% of all contact from the spirit world. So, so low. I don't know why we place so much on fear when it comes to spirit communication. We are out of out of balance with our fear. Now, I just want to finish by saying, when I start working with Whitefeather, who's my spirit guide, he was teaching my circle group one day about how to handle communication that we might feel uneasy about or feel isn't actually giving us much. Playful or not adding anything. And it was interesting because the communication that came through was, don't acknowledge it. Just don't acknowledge it. Just like you wouldn't acknowledge a child who's throwing a tantrum because they want attention. Just don't acknowledge it. Close the communication down. Go on your way. Own it that way. A bit like trolls, isn't it? A bit like trolls. You think about trolls in this world. It's the same thing. Don't acknowledge the troll. Don't give them your power. Don't even give them a piece of your mind. Don't let them rent space in your head. Because when you do go back to them, you're feeding that. You're giving them something that they get some addiction from or joy from. Same thing in spirit. Don't acknowledge it. Own your power. Focus on the light, focus on your spirit loved ones, call in your family. Honestly, if you're working in those kind of boundaries, it's all about intent. You've got nothing to worry about. So that's where I'm going to go with fear, because we started with the fear. Now I'm going to drop all that and get onto the positive. Hi Claire, I see people sitting on my bed. I wake up screaming, but once awake, I'm not afraid. But of course they've gone. Well, I can understand it. I mean, I had this same thing as a teenager. Can I just say, Liz? I did see, it turned out it was my spirit guide at the end of my bedroom. Used to frighten the life out of me. You know, see a figure standing in the room as you're coming out of your sleep when you're in a vulnerable position. Naturally, you're going to feel anxious about it. So the key factor is here, Liz, is what's actually happened to you. Nothing. And this is what I'm saying. We can give our power and fear away, feed it more than we need to. Because nothing has happened, has it? You're fine. I know it's not so nice seeing figures as you wake up. I know how it is. But I've found that when I face those fears, they go. It's a bit like Harry Potter with the boggart in the wardrobe thing. You know, once you start facing them and get on top of those fears, you realise they don't hold any power over you. So maybe in some way you can do that. I hope that helps, Liz. Okay, let's hop on, because otherwise I'm going to keep you here all night. How would Claire recommend we develop our own mediumship skills? So I've got a question on development here. Well, I'm going to do a video on this, I think, in its own right, because this is a huge topic and I've got students coming to me all the time learning how to develop. So I can't really do it justice in this time, okay? But I will just say that question is from Karen Searle. So Karen, I just want you to know the first thing that you can do is adopt a practice of meditation. Mediums have to learn to still the mind. All the while we're active and we are overthinking, analytically thinking, and really very much in this world, or not even in this world because we're so distracted by our own thoughts, we're never going to be able to tune into that subtle dimension of awareness that's around us where spirit reside and pay attention and take notice of it. So the first thing is meditation. There's no easy way, okay? I think we try to go the fast route these days. Everything we get is instant, and meditation is not instant, and spiritual growth is not instant. And if it is, it's never going to be strong, and it's like a good cheese or a good wine. It needs time. So meditate. It doesn't have to be really long meditations. It can be 10 minutes, it can be 5 minutes, but regular, where you start to learn to still the mind, go beyond thought, into just sensing the environment around you and your own energies. Get to know yourself. Mediums call this sitting in the power, where you sit in your own space, you get to know how your own energies feel, and then as you still the mind and sense the environment around you, one day you might feel the presence of a spirit loved one or the presence of a spirit guide, okay? Hi, Rosina. Lovely to see you. Fabulous to have you here. Okay, so on that point, how can you develop your own mediumship skills? Once you've gone on to meditating and doing that in your own life, then I would say the next thing to do, if you're serious about becoming a medium or learning how to work it, you need to find a medium that you respect, one that you've gone and seen and you can see the standard of their work. And then hopefully, if they've got space, they might run something called a circle. And you can sit in the circle, which just basically is sitting every week, week after week, same time, dedicating time out of your week and busy life to sitting in that stillness and power together. And then you've got people to practice on and to share experiences with. As you sit in the group power, the spirit world can utilize that. And if it's harmonious, and all of you are there with the right intent to help each other along and just for the purpose of spirit development, you can get some amazing results. I have the most cherished circle groups where we have had some fantastic insights over the years, but it just takes time. So don't give up. You can't do it in a weekend. You can't do it in 6 months. I was 10 years in development every single week before I even considered myself proficient enough as a medium, really. And now 23 years in development because it doesn't stop. Okay, so there's my first 2 tips. Do meditation, find a circle group, get some advice from an experienced medium who can help you develop. Okay, you can get to those circle groups, by the way, in spiritualist churches where you can sit for virtually nothing, a few pounds a week to have access to a teacher. But like I said, go and see the teacher first. Go and see the medium. You've got to resonate with them. Okay. This one's on the afterlife. In fact, it's on before life, really. Does Claire believe that souls prepare a life contract or mission statement before they incarnate into the physical body? This is the lovely Steve Taylor. Hi, Steve. I want to say thank you so much for everything you bring to this community. You are a very informed individual and people could learn a lot from you. I don't know if you run your own circle, Steve, but I would say I've learnt from you myself, so thank you very much. Do I believe that souls prepare a life contract or mission statement? I like that. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say I do believe it. I've got no proof of it except, again, talk about my own personal experience. For 20 years, as you probably know if you've read any of my books, for 20 years the spirit world told me that I'd come to write for the spirit world. And I didn't believe it. I didn't do anything about it. But these messages kept coming. They repeated for 20 years from mediums who didn't know me at all. And during communications that we got in circle meetings with students, people in workshops would say it to me. Even people that weren't even developed as mediums would tell me I was supposed to be writing books. Hi, Tia. So I got to admit, it wasn't until the books came about and I hadn't gone looking for it and I didn't want to be a writer, but there it was, it landed in my lap, following a message that told me it was going to happen right now, that I started to realise, I believe, the reason that my spirit guide let himself be known to me from a teenager and why I had so many amazing experiences from just like the age of 4 onwards was because I wasn't supposed to forget where I'd come from. They were going to remind me that I was here for a mission. And that mission I feel I'm fulfilling in communicating out to you my understanding of spirit and my experiences so that you can learn, grow and have your own. So yeah, I do. I actually believe that I have a purpose for being here, that I am trying to fulfill that purpose to the best of my potential. And I believe that we all have a purpose. And you don't have to know what that life purpose is. I clearly didn't know. It happened anyway. And I feel that life's all about experience. It's not about reaching perfection. I really believe that. In spirit, we're not even perfect. So I don't believe it's about reaching perfection. I believe it's about experiencing a physical life and growing and learning from it so that we can reach ever higher and higher states of awareness. Hopefully through that, we start to learn and grow and perfect ourselves. But wouldn't heaven or the afterlife be really boring if we were all utterly perfect and we all just existed on a cloud plucking away all day long in total bliss? I can't help but feel at some point I would get bored with that. So I really don't believe it's about perfection, guys. So we've got to really I think lighten up on ourselves and realise none of us are perfect and we don't have all the answers. Steve saying, yes, I do run a circle. You're the best, Claire. No, well, it's mutual. There's a kiss, Steve. And I hope that people can see this and get in contact with you if they're in your area. Okay, so, because there aren't enough circles, are there? There's not enough, and also what I want to say is there's not enough informed mediums. What I like about Steve is he is informed. He's got a lot of academic intelligence knowledge as well as experience with spirit. You want the two, okay? Yeah, perfection is boring. With you there, Tia. Okay, so next question. Why can't the spirit world or the universal energy make it easier for us to communicate? We need to spread the word that there is life after death, but it's so hard to prove to those who don't believe. We need exceptional communication and evidence. The Skull experiment was getting there, but stopped. And that question is by Marion Reeder. If only I had the absolute answer to that, I would make sure that I was getting beyond doubt proof every single time. I could make mediumship work every single time. But I'm going to give you some answers on here that you might not have considered before with regards to this question. Now, I actually think that humans need to hold some of the responsibility. I don't believe it's all about what the spirit world aren't able to achieve. I do believe it's a lot about what human beings aren't able to achieve. It might be that we haven't yet reached a state where we can actually tune into the frequencies of spirit strongly enough to get that so close that the communication, the energy can build to get the best results. Now, there is a reason why I think this is true. In What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, in chapter 1, I talk about the brain, and I talk about how my understanding to do with mediumship is that mediums get themselves into an altered state of awareness, and you can see that whilst they're working, they're in theta state, which is a brainwave that we're not usually in unless we're falling asleep or waking up. We go into delta brainwaves when we're asleep, which is real no activity in the brain. And then as we're waking up, we go into theta states. And then we move into alpha and beta states of awareness where we're fully awake and alert and active in our day. Now, what's interesting is children, little children, are in theta all the time. And they contact the spirit world. I say they're in tune with the spirit world, because I believe they're in this theta state all the time. So to me, brain waves, brain development, the brain, the computer here, is really quite key when it comes to mediumship, which is also why meditation is so important, because we have to get on top of our thoughts. So I find it real interesting. We do have some understanding here that the pineal gland in the brain, which is stimulated when you meditate, releases DMT, which is known as the spirit molecule, which expands the mind and helps us connect to the spirit dimensions, has actually shrunk. And that when in many days gone by, it was much, much bigger. But more than that, I'm going to share this with you, and I'll put this in the comments later. I don't know if you guys know this. It's quite an eye-opener for me. But I was reading in Discovery magazine an article by Bridget Alex, dated the 8th of April 2019, where she writes about the fact that our human brains are shrinking. I mean, how bizarre is that? Through evolution, we're actually going backwards. Apparently, our human brains, compared to Stone Age brains, are 10% smaller than 40,000 years ago. So our brains are actually shrinking, and we're losing brain power and intelligence. So I have to wonder if in the years gone by in antiquity, where it seems to be all this amazing spiritual knowledge came to us, whether that's because the brain was actually more powerful. So I'm kind of wondering if the human body has evolved in a way that doesn't make it that easy for spirit communication. I mean, it's just a different theory here. Marion, I don't know whether you believe what I'm saying or if you feel that's got some credibility at all. I'm just throwing that out there because I actually wonder if we're not as able to connect with spirit these days as we would have been in years gone by. And I also think we're so distracted that we're almost not paying attention anyway. Perhaps they are really trying to get through. We have had some phenomenal evidence. The Society for Psychical Research has got fantastic records of spirit communication, as well as the skull experiments, as you quite rightly highlighted to me. So I'm just looking at questions. Do you think people who are unconscious communicate with spirit? Yes, I do. I believe that when we're in sleep state, when we're free of the confines of the physical body and mental thinking, mental work, we're much more in tune with spirit. I also see in readings, by the way, when spirit people tell me about when they went unconscious as they were beginning to pass, how then the spirit dimensions were opening up to them. So yes, I do. I really do. Nancy, our current brainwaves are very dense, if not a bit smaller than previously. Well, this is what I'm talking about. I think that we are the ones who've switched ourselves off from spirit. Perhaps it isn't the other way round. It's out there, isn't it? I'm still waiting for the absolute proof scientifically. It doesn't exist. So it comes down to faith, and we all have to just have our personal experience and make of that what we will. So just some food for thought there. Probably not the way you thought I might take that question. By the way, I'll also list the book for the skull experiments, because this was a physical circle that existed in the UK where they got some absolutely fantastic phenomena. And again, physical phenomena with spirit communication. I've experienced it myself. I've experienced the most fantastic things moving around the room independently, independent voices. I've experienced it all. But still, the interesting thing is seeing something fly or hover across the room doesn't prove an afterlife. So we're always coming down to the whole thing of information. It seems to be the physical phenomena along with information, to me, provides the best that we've got of evidence of survival after death. So when you get the information that is able to be researched and goes beyond reasonable doubt, then we're really onto something. So I love physical mediumship. I really feel it's got its place. I hope mediums can get back to it. But I'm also quite aware that just seeing something float around in the room on its own is not proof of an afterlife. It could be proof of mental telekinesis, things like that, you know, where the living person is able to somehow affect matter and change it. So again, all these questions, they're just, the more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you have to think about it. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is a beautiful one from Karen Stokes. There are signs to say my daughter is still around me in spirit. How do I really know she's with me? Well, I've kind of answered that in a way, Karen. By the way, I'm really sorry to hear about your daughter. Let me address that. As a mum, every time I hear this, my heart goes out to all the parents out there who has lost a child. The worst kind of suffering and grief I can possibly imagine. So, Karen, I'm sending my love whilst we're talking to you. Heartfelt. Now, signs. How do you really know she's with you? It's a feeling and it's a knowing within you. Okay, I often tell a story about, with regards to signs, you can explain every single sign away. Absolutely you can. You can see a feather and think, well, there must have been a bird here somewhere that's dropped that feather. Well, yeah, obviously, otherwise the feather wouldn't be there. It's come from a bird. But it's the way in which that feather reaches you at the very moment when you need it. And it's the way that your mind turns to a particular person. And then it's how you feel as that sign starts to register with you. Are you with me? Are you with me now? You start to feel different. So I always tell a story about when I was sitting around the dining table with my family and my daughter started questioning me on signs and saying that she'd heard feathers were a sign from heaven, and she didn't believe it because she thought they'd probably just come from a bird and the feather had blown in. And I said to her, don't ignore the signs, and I threw my hand down on the table, lifted up my hand, and there was this huge feather there. We all gasped because, you know, what are the chances? I mean, it wasn't that we'd been sitting there 2 hours, can I say, and I hadn't hit the feather before at any time before that. So, and there we are, you know, there's the feather right at the moment when I'm telling her not to ignore the signs. And a feather of all things, you know, my spirit guide's called white feather. There in my hands, there's a white feather. It's that kind of thing where you can begin to trust that signs are more than just pure coincidence. It's the manner in which they come, how that instantly makes you feel, and there is a peace and lovingness that comes with it. So I can't say to you that you're always going to absolutely know that your daughter's with you. It's trusting when those feelings come and knowing that there is more to life. We don't know it all, and that she's reaching out to you and allowing that sign to communicate and give you comfort and heal you at the moment when you may be needing it. That's my feeling on it. Hopefully, if you can get signs and also perhaps receive spirit visitations in dreams of your daughter, or perhaps you get a message from a medium one day, maybe. I wouldn't say that's necessary, because once you start to know that the spirit world are there and you understand it for yourself, it's far better to start developing your own relationship with spirit than going to other people all the time. The purpose of a medium is to show you what's possible so that you can then learn how to do it yourself. Okay, to varying degrees of success maybe, but we all shouldn't give our power away. We should develop spirit contact for ourselves. Okay, what more is on the other side? Why do spirits want to come over to put things right on the human side? This is another anonymous question. There's so much more on the other side. I don't think I can even answer it. There are many, many realms that look like ours, dimensions of reality that look like ours, but there's also many dimensions I've seen that look nothing like ours and that I find very difficult to explain. I've even been shown dimensions in spirit that are almost, see, there aren't the words to describe it, so I'm going to do my best, but like crystalline in structure, like crystals, but crystalline, they're not crystals, but like a crystalline structure where the intelligence is running through the crystalline structure in colours that I've never experienced here on Earth. So I know I might sound like I've gone away with the fairies on this one, but I really feel that there are many, many dimensions of reality of which we can't fully understand or appreciate that exist in the spirit realms. I mean, it's so beautiful. I'd love to know if anyone else has experienced that. Because I think sometimes if we all come together and can share our experiences and see if anyone else has had similar insights, then it starts to add to the credibility. It's not just me gone off with in my imagination. This was shown to me during mediumship, so I trust it, but I understand that I can't prove that. Okay, and why do spirits come back here to put things right on the human side? Because they care and they love us. So many times in readings, I am shown the ancestral ties between people in spirit and their loved ones here. I'm also shown how the impact of the actions of the loved one in spirit has rippled down through the generations and is still impacting maybe 2 generations, 3 generations down the line. So often what they do is how they've got this greater awareness now they're in spirit world, they try and get through to mediums what they've learnt. They try and say sorry often if they've handled things in a way that wasn't really the best way they could have done it, or they feel they could have done better. Really, they're coming back to try and heal emotions, open our minds up to a different way of thinking, and the reason why it is because everything we do here has an impact in spirit. We are all going to be going back home, and we're going to be taking these experiences, emotions, hurts, pains, suffering, because this is all part of the evolution of consciousness in my mind. It's all part of the greater tapestries in all of these different experiences that we have. And I feel that if they can empower us to live our best life and our fullest life, even if it's to understand why we're suffering, because I don't believe you can get away from suffering while we're here, because we learn so much from it, they might help us through to actually gain the most out of our life that we can. So I really believe there's many reasons why they come back. Sometimes it's just because they really need to. It might not even be that the earthly family here need it. It might be that the spirit being wants to reach out and put some wrongs to right. So there's many reasons. Mostly though, I've got to say, it all happens because they love us. And that love never dies, guys. It doesn't die. So they stay interested. Okay. God, I'm going very quick. If I don't get through all of these, I shall do another Facebook Live because I want to try and do them justice. If time doesn't exist in the spirit world, then does that mean they are already with us in future lives or future time in the spirit world? if they so choose. That's Fiona Sutton. Hello, Fiona. Thank you so much for always posting such beautiful things about the animals that you work with and the way that you help animals. It always resonates with me as an animal lover. Oh, sorry if I've just banged my microphone again and given you all a headache. Okay, so... no, time doesn't exist. And in fact, I can't get my head around time. I've had to learn from Dr. Julia Mossbridge on this one, who's one of the world experts on time as a scientist and understanding premonitions and parapsychology. And so because time doesn't exist in the same way that we experience it, which is we experience it in a linear fashion, but apparently time can twist, turn back on itself. My head just, I'm not even going to try and explain this to you guys. You need to be an astrophysicist or somebody with a computer-sized brain that I don't have. But we do understand scientifically that time does not exist in the way that we experience it. And I also know from what the spirit world tell me is they don't have time either. They're beyond space and time in their reality. So they don't experience time like we do. Everything happens in the now. I suppose everything happens in the now anyway here, doesn't it? But for spirit, there's no night and day. So it's happening just instantly. And in essence, if their consciousness travels into the future, what is the future anyway if it's all happening now? Do you see what I mean? We've got to look at time differently. But I suppose in essence, Fiona, yes, they could be. Maybe that's why sometimes they're a bit cheeky and they give a bit of information away about, when a baby's coming, or can see when someone's pregnant. They can be a little bit naughty sometimes when they get excited about a new life coming in. Maybe they've just sort of seen the most likely outcome and they're sharing it. But even then, I think that's because they know they're allowed to, because otherwise I don't think they'd give it. So I can't say I can answer that maybe in a satisfactory way, but there's my thoughts on it for you, all right, Fiona? Okay. Tia, I feel and believe our loved ones are with us. They visit us in our dreams. I have so many dreams of my dearest. I can't see it all there, Tia, but I absolutely am with you. They absolutely visit us in our dreams because, again, our mind is still, we are not in the active thinking stage where we're distracted by everything that's going on around us. We're in a stage of creativity and we are receptive, and they can join us, create even in the dream state so that we can see them and know they're well. I received the most beautiful email the other day about a lovely mum who's crossed into the spirit world and has proven to her daughter that she's well and fine in the dream state. So, I mean, how beautiful is that? Nicola Hart, how long does it take for spirits to reach the other side once someone has passed? Well, I mean, it's instant. From my experience, when I've done readings, I quite often get shown the conditions of passing. And as the spirit detaches away from the body, as the vital energy goes within to the body, and as the spirit or conscious awareness detaches away from the spirit, from the body, then we move straight into the physical dimensions. There's many layers, many realities of spirit, some closer to our earthly conditions, others, like I said, that I can't even explain. How long it takes to move through them is like how long is a piece of string. I think it's as the soul is ready and wants to move. It's choice. But dying is difficult, but death is easy. Once that physical body stops and the soul separates away, it's just instant and nothing to be feared. In fact, when you listen to near-death experiences, and I've spoken to many personally now, dying is not the process of the dying body. That can be painful and long and drawn out, but the actual moment where they die and cross over is pain-free and exhilarating. So no matter which way you go or what you experience then, it's exhilarating and it's instant, Nicola. So I'm not frightened of death at all. Not at all. Not relishing how I go, and I don't want to go yet because my children need me. But I'm not worried about it. It doesn't even it's not even in my head anymore because I just know it's going to be the next grand adventure for me. That's the way I see it. Okay. How are we doing? Are you all still with me? What are we doing for time? Okay, 8:15. So I might go on for 5 more minutes, otherwise I'm going to lose you all. I'll come back to some more questions another time, I think. Okay. What's this one here? Emma Thorne. I always wonder about relationships once we've passed. For example, if someone remarries 3 or 4 times, who are they with in the afterlife? I've often thought this myself. I've got to say, Emma, first husband or wife, or the most loved or the kindest. And if you have a disability in this life, does it go with you? Okay. So, again, I'm going to talk from personal experience. Everything I talk about is what I know to be true from my own personal experience, not because none of us have all the answers. So, oh, Nicola, thanks, Claire. I've had a near-death experience and it was very peaceful. There you are. There you are, Nicola. So, I'm talking from personal experience. My grandmother was married twice because my granddad died when I was very young, when I was about 3 years old. So my nan was very young to have lost her husband, and so she had all this lifetime left to live, and she remarried. Now, I know that she has come back communicating since to us, and she's always with her first husband. That tells me that even though the relationship she had with her second husband was meant to be, and that clearly, that, you know, if we do buy into this whole soul contract thing or mission here, clearly they're meant to be together. She is choosing to be with the first husband. I believe it's a choice. So for whatever reason, she is with my granddad. That's not wishful thinking on my behalf, because I want what's best for her, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if in spirit we even move on even further into soul groups and into higher evolution. I'm not identified with anything. That's how the communications come through. So I think that we have a choice. I think that we actually can decide based on what feels right to us and the need and what we're going to learn from it all, and the greater gain from it, I suppose. It's a choice. It's a choice. So Diban saying, do our loved ones hear us talking to them? Yes, they absolutely do. Thoughts go out like text messages. They go out into the ether. They ripple out as an energy. The thought itself isn't what they receive, but the emotion behind it is what they receive, and they feel all that, they experience it when you sit and direct it to them with pure intention. Yes, they do. They love it when we look at photographs and send out our love to them with intention. They love it. They receive it. I get that all the time. If there's any other mediums out there, feel free to chip in and validate or share your own experiences in this respect, because the amount of times that I hear from the spirit world that they are hearing the thoughts of their loved ones here and responding to them, I absolutely know, if anything, about mediumship, that your loved ones hear your thoughts or receive the emotion behind them and know how you're feeling. Okay? So I haven't quite finished this answer yet. So yes, I believe that we get to choose who we want to be with in the spirit world, just like we do here. And I would imagine that there is, given the fact we get a bigger, grander picture of things, a wider perspective on life, that we don't bear grudges. Because there'll be, just like in this life, we move on from people that we can absolutely love to pieces and then realise that that's run its time and we're moving on to the next experience. Doesn't mean that you don't like that person or respect them anymore, does it? And if you have a disability, you do not take it with you. You are, again, we need to get off from thinking in material terms. When you die, you are not taking the physical body with you. You are energy, you are pure awareness. It's that was never physical in the first place, even here on earth, that passes into spirit. So you do not take your disabilities, even mental illness, which is a dysfunction of the brain, we are free from. So I can't stress this enough. You leave behind that which isn't working, the mechanical body, and move into the spiritual form, and you are whole again. You were always whole. You are whole now. People think about the spirit, I think, in a topsy-turvy way. We tend to think the spirit is within the body. It's not like that. The spirit contains the body. The spirit is bigger than the body, in other words. The conscious awareness, our energy, is a field around us. So it's that which goes on. And so no, disabilities do not come with you when you die. Isn't that nice? Seems like too good to be true, doesn't it? Well, it's lovely, isn't it? Because, you know, as I start to get a little bit older, getting a few aches and pains, it'd be nice to know that, you know, I can come back all nice and young and whole and fresh again. Steve's saying, totally agree. The emotional charge is what gets through the veil. Thank you. Look at these beautiful words. You should be a writer, Steve. Okay. Right. Now, I'm just going to tell you some of the things I'm going to address another time. How do I know who my spirit guide is and guardian angel? I've been asked this so many times. I want to do a video on its own about that as free training and learning for you. And I'm getting questions about reincarnation. I'm just going to answer this one very quickly because Denise Murray says, do you personally believe for yourself that your incarnation here is your last before your ascension? Well, no, I honestly don't think I'm that perfect. Again, I'm saying it's not about perfection, so who knows? Maybe it is my last time around. Apparently in a previous life, though, I was doing mediumship, I was a seer, and I had more knowledge than I have now. So if I had to come back again, even though I was more ascended or aware in that life, who knows? Who knows? I wouldn't even presume to think that I'm on the last time around. I wouldn't mind going to a different planet though next time. Fancy a change, a bit like a holiday. Okay, if someone has come back in a new life, how would you know, please? You wouldn't necessarily know, but again, what we need to understand here is consciousness isn't limited by space and time. So, I mean, there's many trains of thoughts on this. This is why reincarnation needs to be another subject, because it's a can of worms once you open it. I absolutely believe it exists. I have looked into the science. The cases are far too strong in children that remember previous lives, and I've had my own experiences. So I do believe reincarnation exists, but every time I think about it, because it's all tied up with time, I get myself in tangles. So it's really difficult to answer that question, other than the fact that I suppose if they never come through in a mediumship reading, perhaps they've reincarnated, or perhaps an essence of a part of the soul stays in spirit and you can have multiple experiences in lives all at once. So I don't know. And I'm somebody who always owns when I don't know something, and I learn from you all. And this is what I'm saying. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I haven't experienced communicating yet with somebody who has come back into a new life and still remains in spirit. So that's just a theory still. Okay. Sorry about that, Barbie. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to address the other things in another video, because I'm just aware that I've already taken up too much of your precious time. I hope this video has been helpful. I want to thank all of you who've been engaging with me, leaving me comments. This community is so precious to me. We have the most loving people who are seeking and wanting to learn more, and I learn as much from you guys as I hope you learn from me. So again, it's an honor to just try and share my knowledge, and I really believe that once we get talking about this and realize that this is part of human experience, and so many people have experiences of spontaneous after-death communication, of premonitions, of past life memories, of psychic abilities, of, this isn't something that's isolated to the few. This is something that every time I talk to someone, someone's got a story in their families about someone who had an experience. So as we come together and we share and we own it, we realise that we don't have to be ashamed or worried that someone else out there considered us crazy. Okay, anyway, just like I think it was in Alice in Wonderland, all the best people are. That's my view on it. So I'm going to say goodbye to you all. I'm going to come back to the comments as quickly as I can, although I can see there's a lot there to you guys. And I just want to say thank you. I shall see you soon for another Facebook Live soon, and on social media, on YouTube, on Together with Spirit, and on Instagram. Gosh, I'm all over the place. So I'll see you soon. Thanks very much. Night, everyone.